Imagine, if you will, it was the 23rd of December, 2017, very early hours of the morning. The doctors take me to one side, sit me in a room, and ask me if I have family, because they need to come right now, because they don't know how long my son is going to be around for. It was the worst moment of my life. And they came, and I'll get back to the rest of that. So how did we find ourselves in that situation? It all started a year prior, around Christmas 2016. Theo was a happy, healthy 12-year-old, doing 12-year-old stuff, not sick, just a regular kid. And out of the blue, he got unwell, and we didn't know what it was. And the doctors, after a few weeks, diagnosed him with leukemia. The diagnosis came on January the 12th, and Friday, January the 13th, he had his first dose of chemo. It happened so fast. You have no time to understand, to think. It's just a whirlwind. He was 12. He is aware of words, chemo, cancer. This stuff is scary. You know, you don't know what to say as a parent, apart from, I would love to do this for you, but I can't. But we're going to do it together. We're going to fight. That's the only thing you have to do here, is to fight. Leukemia is harsh, very, very harsh. The treatment schedule is about 3.5 years. 3.5 years, and that's with nothing going wrong. How do you tell a 12-year-old that he's going to have 3.5 years of chemo with the nausea, all the side effects? It's just devastating, but you do it. You have to do it. So for about 9 months, we were backwards and forwards to the hospital. Some days it was 4 days out of 5 in the week. I stopped counting at 100 intravenous chemotherapies. It was insane. 9 months in, we were hopeful that he would get to a different phase of the treatment, whereby it would be a little less intensive. And unfortunately for Theo, things actually got worse. His immune system was pretty much non-existent at that point. He started to get sick again. We didn't know why. He lost, I think it was about 25 pounds in a month. He was wasting away. And he was back in hospital, and they didn't know what was wrong with him, and they ran tests and tests and tests, and it wasn't the leukemia that had come back. He had an intestinal parasite. Who would have known? And things got so bad that we ended up with the phone call. They were at their wits' end. They didn't know what to do to save him. They had to put him into a coma. They had to put him onto life support, and we had to hope for the best. And it was devastating. We had no clue. You know, you watch minute by minute, hour by hour. There's no future, there's no plans, there's nothing. There's just the minute that you're in, and hoping that the doctors are going to figure it out. On 3 separate occasions, there was the bell that they rang because there was a disaster. And it's like in the movies. The doctors rush in, and it's panic stations, and you can see in their faces that they don't know what's going on. They put him on life support, which his lungs were completely infected. He ended up with septicemia, septic shock, which can kill in a matter of hours. The only thing to keep him alive was a machine called ECMO, which has actually been used, I think, for COVID patients. It does the work of the heart and the lungs outside of the body. It's a machine on the floor, and there are huge tubes that do everything outside the body. It's a miracle machine. You're not supposed to be on it for very long. He was on it for 3 weeks, I think, pretty much. And that kept him alive. He was on dialysis. His kidneys were not working, so a machine was keeping him alive. And we didn't know how he was going to wake up because his lungs had been affected. He'd kind of been oxygen starved before they put him in the coma, so we had no real idea. The doctors couldn't be sure that he would wake up okay. We kind of waited and waited, and then in January, they kind of woke him up. They took him off the machine. There were hemorrhages. It was just awful, but he was alive. He was there. He had a tracheotomy, so he couldn't talk at that point, no voice. So he woke up kind of a body in a bed. He was so skinny. He was frail. He didn't know what had happened to him. And we had to kind of pick it up from there. And we realized that he had to find the strength from somewhere to keep going. And so we just tried to keep him positive and to motivate him. And he did, and he attacked the physiotherapy, and he had to learn, I mean, he couldn't even sit. He had to learn how to sit up, how to walk, I mean, everything. It was like learning everything again. And he found the strength from somewhere, and he fought and got better and better. While he was still in the high dependency unit, we were living in Switzerland at the time. We had the opportunity to decide if we wanted to move to the US. The worst timing in the world, but something, I think, in our brains made us think, you know what, maybe this is an amazing opportunity. So we wanted to. We talked to his doctors. They were like, you can do this, it's fine with this treatment. And so we did relocate in the summer of 2019 and started a new life here. And then COVID hit. And COVID attacked the lungs, and I was absolutely terrified because all I could see were those pictures in my mind engraved of him on life support, and I just was so scared that we would end up with that again. So luckily he didn't get COVID at that time. He's had it since, and it's fine. But he continued his chemotherapy here. He was followed at the Scottish Rite Hospital. I mean, he has a file that thick, but they took it, they read it, they treated him, and he rang the bell at the end of his treatment in May 2020, which was a day I wasn't sure that we would ever see, but yeah, he did it. And since then, he still has checkups monthly, and then it was 2 monthly, and then 3 monthly, and 6 monthly. And last week, he was transferred to the Survivors Clinic. He just turned 18. He is 6'2". You would never know that he had come this close to losing his life. I feel that we're lucky. People don't understand why I say that, but there are kids that don't make it. We saw that firsthand. There were 3 children that we knew that died from their complications from their cancers. Make-A-Wish was something that we found out about very early on in Switzerland, and Theo was horrified because to him Make-A-Wish was for dying children. And he was like, I don't want anything to do with this is not for me. And it's true, that's the initial reaction is, this is an end of life thing. This is no way. This is not what we want. And obviously they explained. He was always too sick in Switzerland for any of that to happen. And then when we arrived in the US, it was great. They were able to transfer his file through to Georgia, so that was amazing. And then COVID hit. So again, we were back into, okay, this can't happen. And he had a lot of crazy ideas about what he wanted to do. He wanted to travel in Africa. He wanted to meet Bill Gates. I mean, there were all sorts of, don't ask me where this was coming from.
Any of them happen, don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I was kind of like, okay, and Make-A-Wish were amazing because they didn't ever sort of like rush him or say, this is, what are you thinking? You know, they were just kind of like, this is what we can do, and, you know, think and think and think. And so it took a long, long time for him to decide. And eventually, he decided he wanted to learn how to surf in Hawaii. Why not? So his wish was actually, it happened in April of this year, so not that long ago. He and I went, just the 2 of us. He decided that having been so together through the worst times, I had to drag him sometimes to the hospital. You know, there was so much doom and gloom and negativity and just so much that was hard. He figured that it was kind of the best way to rebuild something positive together. You know, do something crazy, do something new. We learned how to surf. He looked like he was a pro. I was absolutely horrified. I could stand up. He loved it. We did kayaking and we went snorkeling, and it was just great. It was just a breath of fresh air. There was no worrying about anything. There was no having to talk about difficult things. It was just fun. And I think we really managed to build some amazing memories that we'll keep forever. And Make-A-Wish made that happen for us, and we'll be eternally grateful. I think it's, you know, something that doesn't have, you know, you can't put a price on such an amazing thing. His was well after the end of his treatment, but regardless, it's just something that makes them realize that they've been through such a tough time. None of that is normal. No, you don't want any child to have to go through that. And just to be able to have that trip, I think, just made him feel kind of like it's okay. You know, this is something that you can recognize the fact that you've been through a lot. You know, there's not many people at 18 that have seen what you've seen in life. So it was a special trip. I might get emotional now.
It's okay.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.